Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating framework on building lasting wealth, called the architecture of passive wealth. I absolutely love this framing because it completely shifts how we think about our finances. We're not just talking about making a quick buck here, or jumping on the latest internet trend. We are talking about structural integrity. And why does that matter? Well, because wealth that isn't engineered to withstand market volatility, inflation, and major economic shifts is honestly just a temporary windfall. As focused learners, I know you appreciate getting straight to the mechanics of how things actually work. So today, we're going to break down the literal blueprint of passive wealth, step by step. Let's dive right in.
But okay, before we can start building anything, we really have to ask ourselves a fundamental question. What is the actual truth about passive income? Have you ever felt like you've been sold a financial fantasy? We live in this era where the idea of making money while you sleep is broadcast literally everywhere, often painted as this effortless, magical process. There's actually a running joke in financial circles that if a guru promises you can make money while you sleep, they usually just mean you're dreaming. In fact, industry data often highlights that the vast majority of people who chase these guaranteed, zero-effort passive income schemes just end up losing their initial capital. So we need to investigate this central mystery today and dig into the actual mechanics. Is it all just a shiny illusion, or is there a solid structure beneath it? That brings us to Section 1, the passive wealth facade, confronting the illusion. So here is the harsh truth about passive income. It requires an extraordinary amount of active work up front. Uncovering this truth is absolutely crucial. It's the essential first step before any real, lasting building can begin. You wouldn't construct a skyscraper on top of a swamp, right? And you definitely shouldn't build your financial future on wishful thinking. True passive wealth isn't about avoiding work at all. It's about front-loading your effort to create systems that eventually sustain themselves. Let's get super specific about what front-loading actually looks like. If you're buying a cash-flowing asset like, say, a commercial property, the passive income only comes after weeks of intense due diligence, securing capital reserves, stress testing the local market, and structuring the debt. If you're building a digital asset like software or a proprietary content library, front-loading means hundreds, sometimes thousands of uncompensated hours before a single dollar is ever generated. Even dividend investing requires the highly active discipline of generating excess active income first and then allocating that capital efficiently over years. The reality is that the word passive simply describes the eventual tax classification and the delayed relationship between the time spent and the money earned. It literally never means zero effort. That is the grounded reality we're anchoring to today.
Moving right along to Section 2, demolition, separating myth from reality.
To build properly, we've got to clear the lot of bad advice. We need to contrast the shaky myths we are so often sold with the concrete reality required for actual wealth. Let's look at some specific examples here. A massive myth right now is the idea of the set-it-and-forget-it automated dropshipping empire, which is pitched as requiring zero ongoing maintenance. The reality? You are constantly battling algorithm changes, managing unreliable overseas suppliers, and fighting severe margin compression as competitors flood your niche. It is a highly active, low-margin operating business. That's not passive wealth. Or consider the myth of real estate, the zero-down, no-risk property acquisition. The grounded truth is that real estate requires capital reserves for roof repairs, HVAC failures, and tenant vacancies. Being over-leveraged with zero equity isn't a passive wealth strategy. It's a liquidity trap just waiting to snap shut during a market downturn. Even with index funds, the myth is that compound interest will magically make you rich overnight. But the reality? Compound interest is heavily backweighted. It requires aggressive, consistent principal contributions over decades before the interest overtakes your active input. By placing these specific myths right next to their corresponding realities, we can clearly see which materials are safe to build with and which ones will inevitably cause a financial collapse. Our source material actually puts this perfectly, stating, "Separate myths from reality with real financial insights." Tearing down these financial myths is only possible when we apply genuine, grounded insights. You can't dismantle a myth with just another myth, right? You need the heavy machinery of actual data, proven principles, and clear-eyed analysis. But what exactly qualifies as a real financial insight? Well, it means looking past top-line revenue and actually understanding profit margins. It means understanding capitalization rates, or cap rates, in real estate to evaluate an asset's yield independent of how it's financed. It means knowing the critical difference between yield and total return, and grasping exactly how inflation affects your purchasing power over, say, a 20-year horizon. When you encounter a new investment opportunity, this concept serves as your mandate. Stop accepting the surface-level narratives, the flashy revenue screenshots, and the out-of-context success stories, and start demanding mathematical substance.
Which leads us to section 3, the foundation, utilizing real financial insights.
So to put this into practice, the source provides a really logical 3-step blueprint that you can apply to pretty much any investment vehicle. Step 1, identify the myths. You survey the landscape and spot the weaknesses. Let's say someone pitches you a private lending fund, guaranteeing a 20% annual return with zero risk. That is the myth. Your alarm bell should be ringing immediately. Step 2, uncover the reality. This is where you dig down to the bedrock. You audit the risk profile and realize that to generate a 20% yield, those fund managers must be deploying capital into highly speculative, unsecured debt, meaning your principal is entirely at risk. Then, step 3, apply real financial insights. Now you start laying the steel in concrete. You calculate the risk-adjusted return. You compare that 20% potential yield against the risk-free rate of a U.S. Treasury bond. You analyze the liquidity terms, like can you actually get your money out when you need it? This 3-step process is incredible because it turns a philosophical idea into a highly actionable, structured filter. It prevents emotional investing and forces you to act as a rational architect, rigorously inspecting every single asset before allowing it into your portfolio.
Let's synthesize all of this into an actionable framework you can take away and use starting tomorrow. When you set out to construct the architecture of passive wealth, you aren't just crossing your fingers and hoping for a return. Not at all. You are actively seeking the absolute truth about how passive income functions in your chosen asset class. You are ruthlessly separating the marketing myths from the operational reality. And most importantly, you are utilizing real financial insights, the hard math, the risk analysis, and the historical data to make your decisions. This is your toolkit, guys. These pillars are deeply interconnected, and mastering them means moving from being a target for financial marketers to becoming a truly educated capital allocator. And finally, section 4, the blueprint, designing your financial architecture.
So what does this all mean for you? I want to leave you with this one question to ask yourself today. Is your financial architecture built on myth or reality? Take a hard, really honest look at your own foundation right now. Are the income streams you're building or the financial plans you're relying on truly based on grounded data and front-loaded effort, or are they propped up by those alluring illusions we've just dismantled? I highly encourage you to take these concrete insights, apply them as your own personal blueprint, and start building something real, sustainable, and structurally sound. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and for sure, keep seeking the truth behind the structure.